Hello, everyone. Hello, Maddie. You look like you're in a new location again. Where are you?
I thought you were going to say you look like so thank you for not saying that. Mate, I'm in China. I am in Shanghai. We flew straight from Austin. By straight from Austin, I mean through LA, which is always a fun experience with the little one. And turns out he's old enough to experience jet lag now. So that's the fun that we're going through. It's 4:30 a.m. recording time here in Shanghai, but I've been up since 1:30 with the little one who wants to play and is hungry because he didn't eat his dinner. But anyway, that's my life at the moment. And also, just to top it off, tried to get a coffee delivered. I use an app called Alipay over here. It's like a super app. And the McDonald's app, you can translate in it. So I've managed to order my coffee, but I have no idea where it's been ordered to. So some poor delivery driver is trying to deliver a McCafe strong latte to some place in China that I have no idea, and I don't have a coffee. But anyway, how are you?
Oh, it makes me feel so good. I don't mean to bathe in your suffering, but I sort of know the feeling of just traveling and I haven't traveled with kids though, so you're an absolute trooper there. That sounds terrible. Also, a full traveling tragedy is a Melburnian at heart. You know, the average human being could get through a podcast at 4 a.m. potentially without a coffee, but as a Melburnian, like you're in proper struggle town now. That's bad.
Yeah, totally. And I do have a full-on caffeine addiction. I think after the flight, the day after, I had headaches and stuff. I was like, maybe I'm getting sick, but I realized I just hadn't had a coffee in a while. So, that's where I'm at. But we'll press on.
Very good. Well, mate, I'm good. I was until, and we're going to go through this in detail, the OpenAI well-timed announcement a couple hours before the pod of their new browser that's come up. But then I went straight to my international law firm, as we know that lawfare is what good founders do when they're feeling threatened. And because Sam Altman has called their browser Atlas. Now, what many don't know, because I've never spoken about it, is that in the background, our global supply chain that we're building out so that we can get materials direct from the best factories and suppliers around the world was called W Atlas. And I don't know if I've been talking about it. This is the conspiracy. I've done all the thought partner with it inside of OpenAI over the last 12 to 18 months. So this is potentially one of the biggest data breaches of all time.
This is a new version of thanks for watching. It's not thanks for watching the B2S pod, but it's the thanks for spying on my private chats.
Thanks for stealing my data, Sam.
Yeah.
I knew the Zuck. I wouldn't type like my coffee order into Meta AI, because the Zuck's gonna fucking do something about it. But I thought it was safe with Sam. But obviously not. So we'll go through the new browser, which is the biggest news of this week. The OpenAI has released their browser. And we'll go through that in a bit more detail in the AI news. But some other very funny news this week was last week we went a bit hard at our man Brett Adcock, or potentially I did, saying that he was the godfather of burning capital. And I think he's gone harder again. He's leaning into it even harder. He said, because when you do a raise every 3 weeks, you need to find any microphone you can and say some truly obnoxious. And this week, our man has gone down to the Salesforce convention and said, any company, talking about his own, that can solve general purpose humanoid robots, which he believes he's at the top of, will be worth 200 times Apple.
You're going to build a company 200 times more valuable than Apple if you solve this. It's half the world's GDP is human labor.
Your goal is to build a company 2.5 times more valuable than Apple.
You will build a company like maybe 100 times. You'll build like definitely tens of more valuable than Apple. You will build a company worth tens of trillions for sure if you can solve this problem.
Tens of trillions.
Like half of GDP is human.
Sorry. I mean, just give him more money. The guy's going to be 200 times Apple. What a fucking legend. Like, it's so inspiring for me. I'm about to head over to LA. I've got so much obnoxious shit I'm ready to say for this round.
Like, it would make headlines if you said that your company was going to be bigger than Apple or double the size, but 200. What is this guy smoking?
He is the godfather. He is the godfather of capital raising. If he comes out of this, yeah, he probably left Salesforce with like 40 new investors going, I just want to be part of 200 times Apple. I just want in.
Yeah, he's that's well. I'm glad it's given you some good energy for your LA trip. That's what is happening in LA.
So I'm heading over for a YPO event. It's called Global Business Summit. So big event in LA. I think Ashton Kutcher's going to be there. I didn't realize he was some sort of major investor these days.
He's an investor. Yeah, I think he's done well.
Yeah, so I'm going to tell him.
The chain smokers. They're also quite prolific investors. Do you know that?
No, I didn't know that. But
yeah, I am thinking about celebs.
I'm thinking about maybe getting in front of Ashton Kutcher, and I might just say like, we're just going to be like 100 times Apple, and just see what happens. See if I can fire him up. But what actually did fire me up was got home last night. My 4 and 6 year old daughter are furiously excited upstairs. They're never upstairs. They're always downstairs because like hanging out in the living room, playing with toys. That's where they are when I get home. First time in my life that mum's cooking and the kids are upstairs furiously playing away. Now, not many men are thinking about this as a business case, right? But as I walk up the stairs, I hear that just how happy they are. I go, what is going on? Anyway, she's got the Google speaker, whatever it is, under her bed that her mum lets read bedtime stories to them. In the meantime, she's hacked it. She's realized you just say, hey, Google. And she's got K-pop Demon Hunters and Taylor Swift. She's got a concert going, right? This is a 4 and a 6 year old in their bedroom. And I go, what did you go up there? They're dancing. She goes, it's so much better than the TV and having to ask you to put stuff on for me. Like she's gone straight in, and she's talking obviously about the voice UI, right? Like, so it's a voice command UI. And it just made me think, this is how the whole home should be. Like, she's managed to hack her little Google speaker, but the fact that there's still a speaker record, something she could choke herself on, all these interesting stuff, when she couldn't leave the room because the speaker wasn't going to go with it. So straight away, Elysium, it was like an ad for Elysium. I was not even angry. Like, she should be downstairs with the family, but I just said, you guys enjoy your Elysium party up here. Use the silly tool that Google's currently offering. But yeah, how's that? But so it is the feeling I reckon I get at work when I get a good voice interaction. I don't have to use my fingers. Like, that's me. I'm that 4-year-old girl listening to K-pop Demon Hunters. Like, that is how I feel. She was so excited.
Well, that's going to be my next prompt into Nano Banana. I think the fascinating thing is that they're going to grow up with this and they're going to expect it. So, the idea of typing out long emails or doing backwards stuff on your phone, it is going to disappear. We've talked about this before, but as soon as you think something, you should be able to interact with the technology, and it's awesome to see you kids, getting the thrill out of that. And I guess it shows that is it's an unbiased, it's an objective way of showing that that's the future. Like, that is a good experience. They're not biased by anything. They've got they're just showing their emotions on the experience. So that's I love that they're doing a bit of advertising for you.
Yeah, and look, and the false version of it, if I was in San Fran, I would have done a LinkedIn post that then she said that it was better than YouTube. Then I explained that YouTube's under the same ecosystem, and then she would have questioned me on their market cap. That would have been like the San Fran LinkedIn post version of what happened last night. Except the true end was Taylor Swift and K-pop Demon Hunters.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if you've seen those posts that take the piss out of people who say like some ridiculous stuff on LinkedIn, and that's what it taught me about B2B sales.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those posts.
Yeah. My son said this, he's 6 and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like the things that didn't happen. Yeah, no, very good. Mate, but just before we get into the AI news, I've got a retraction, official retraction. And now this would usually come with a pretty serious apology from someone like me. But it actually, don't worry, folks, that I haven't led you astray too much last week. But we can get a bit headline happy here, or I can. And last week we went with N8N chat was, going to change the game in terms of building workflow automations because, they've got an LLM sitting on top. So instead of drag and dropping nodes as part of a workflow, you could just talk to it and build one. So we tested it out. We spent a full day trying to, actually, I probably shouldn't say this out loud, almost replicate a build pass feature around drawing updates, like linking OneDrive and stuff like that. Good news for you, it didn't work. so what you're doing over there is deep tech. But what was clear is that typing into Claude and screenshotting the nodes was easily better at building it inside N8N than just talking straight to N8N. So have you got, I suppose, some under the hood thoughts on that and why it might be hard for some of these, products to not even be able to do something better themselves, like why it's still better to go out to a bigger model?
Yeah, like in a nutshell, it's the fact that N8N has already got this product that works, right? It's heaps of technical things that have been tied together and it already works. And so figuring out what the input to that is and how to load it up with all the nodes, that's one part you need to do. Like you need to be able to figure out how to input it. And that's not that hard to do. The hard part is translating someone's intent on what they're trying to do, putting that into the foundational model, and then figuring out all the logic. And so that's what Claude is really good at doing. It's like saying, I know about you and I know about what you're trying to do, and it's got access to the best model. And so chatting with Claude and doing it all there almost does like all the heavy lifting. And then at the end, it's just the easy part is saying, oh yeah, I can get that into N8N for you. Whereas what N8N AI has to do is they have to basically rebuild a bunch of Claude. They have to build the chat interface. They have to build what model it's going to be talking to. They have to build, has it got memory? Has it got context around what N8N is going to do for you? And it's pretty new too. Like they're probably kind of having to justify their recent capital raise. Yeah, we've got some AI in here. And so they would have just schlepped it together. Whereas Claude and the other, foundational model experiences have been working on this for a while. So it doesn't surprise me that it's not as good, but it will get better. And it does raise an interesting point though, how integrated will all of the B2B software companies get with their use of AI? Does the product become AI native, or is it sort of just bolting it on to the side? And it's glad to hear you are trying to recreate some build pass features and failing, because it is one of the things that we look at, because we also have, I guess we're in a similar position to N8N somewhat. We have a workflow builder, but we're trying to figure out how much of that should be done through the build pass ecosystem. How much should we invest in our workflow builder versus use something that's off the shelf and get someone to just build their workflows there, and then we can do requests between them. Now, the way that we've personally landed is we are going to invest heavily into that experience because we think that that's going to be so core to the platform. And so we want to make sure we have a workflows tool that has access to absolutely everything in the platform, so that you could, on anything that changes, like if it's a piece of machinery arrives at site and it wasn't checked in properly, we can send a notification to the manager that something needs to happen. Like setting up all of those workflows is going to be very difficult to do in a separate product, then integrating it back. So we're investing heavily there, and I think that's the right strategy. But it does not surprise me that the N8N AI experience, especially something that probably got put together pretty quickly, hasn't hit the mark.
Yeah, it's a funny one. So I saw Airbnb is running Qwen, running all their AI on Qwen. Potentially N8N is running theirs on a cheaper model, to try and not just they're losing money. And I wonder whether, almost there's different types of experiences or level of experiences where you can sort of pick your model and then you start paying more or something like that to get the best version of it. And I suppose, and thinking about that, I was listening to a podcast with the Atlassian founder, not Scott, what's the other one's name?
Mike.
Mike Cannon-Brookes. He was saying, look, they've made some big bets, like they bought Loom and they believe, and I think that's a great product, and they've obviously got all their existing Atlassian products and, just a business doing really well. He was saying the main bet they made was not to get involved in frontier models. And then he said, well, what's going to be really important moving forward? And he said, really, really good design. And I wonder, in what you're talking about, Build Pass, is it sort of like let the models be models and sit on top of them, but then it's really about packaging up really, really good design and really good domain knowledge around the workflows of your customers? Like, is that
100%?
100%. Is that the play?
This is very topical because Aaron and I literally had a chat about this yesterday. But we're talking about the importance of really good engineers and really good designers. And essentially, there's been a lot of narrative that, you won't need engineers and designers because you can just vibe code everything. And I think we've actually got something in the docket about this from Chamath later to talk about. But the reality is, how we see it is the bar will only go up because the entry point for someone to build some AI slop app is so low. So all of these new apps are going to come out, and they're all going to be, they might work, they might do something. You might be able to build an internal tool that sort of half works, but all it means is that because all this is out there, things are going to get more competitive, and things like good design that is done by humans, aided by AI, is only going to become more and more important as it differentiates you. So I think what we're going to see is the quality of the good products have to go up. Your really amazing companies, and we'll talk about the big private companies later, are going to be investing so heavily in finding the best designers, the best engineers, whereas a bunch of the startups are going to be just trying to put this AI swap out there really quickly. So I think we're going to see the bar go up, and I think that take, Scotty, around the real moat is in having amazing user experience, knowing your customers really, really well, and leveraging the AI tools and wrapping them up and packaging them in the right way. So I am completely aligned with that.
Yeah, it's sort of similar to, when there's abundance, really good high level stuff stands out. Like, there's so much Netflix show slop that you wouldn't watch. But like if Christopher Nolan does a movie, you go out to the movies and see it. Do you know what I mean? Like you're like, oh, it's standing out. There used to be 20 good movies a year. Now there's 2. So you go out and see them. And I just think, if you're going to convince in B2B businesses to, put their whole, workflow with you, you're going to convince an executive team, and then that executive team has to convince all their staff, and that's going to be done with really good design, I imagine, and really good user experience. All right, let's waste no more time. Get into AI news. The biggest news of the week landed about 3 to 4 hours ago. Thanks, Sam, despite the lawsuit coming up, is ChatGPT Atlas, new browser, long-term Mac user, as listeners of the show will know, 3 months in to my Mac excursion. And the good thing is that when new stuff comes out, it always goes on Mac first. So I've had a play around with it this morning. You've had some VPN troubles over there in China. But it looks like, so we're competing at the moment with Comet and other AI browsers. Obviously, we're competing with Chrome, and we'll talk about the market hit to Google overnight as well. But it looks like a big move now. in terms of and sort of changing the way that you browse and what you can do. We've also got Claude Code on the web to talk about, but what for you, why are there browser wars, and what does it mean to you as someone who just searches and uses their browser to work? What would this change for you once you can get on?
Yeah. So look, I think the first interesting thing about this release is it feels like a long time coming for OpenAI. They've had a lot of features that they've released that sort of lends itself to this experience in lieu of actually having a browser, but now they've got that. So you think about the ChatGPT operator mode, I think they called it, where you could control the browser for you. You think about the ability for it to now view your screen and kind of work with other apps. So that's it combines a few things, and they've obviously been working on this for a while. What I think this does is it shows that people do not just want to have a chat interface. Like, we've realized that for a while, that the chat interface itself and by itself is, it lacks some features, right? We still want to be able to see things, and we want to see what's out there on the internet. And the whole idea of this is, what is a much better way of doing my browsing for me, and how can I automate a bunch of the crap I don't want to do? So the classic example that we always talk about when we talk about AI automating stuff on the browser for you is, can it book flights for me? And so with the this new Atlas browser, the concept is you could choose, you go into your booking.com or wherever it is, you get a little agent on the side, and it can control the browser, it can do things for you. And so hopefully this is going to be a really amazing experience. You get the benefits of being in a web browser, be able to see what people are posting, go on different websites and just enjoy the internet. But it takes up the, like we were talking about before, the user experience of that to another level. And you get the automation, you get all of the good things that we have inside of ChatGPT. So I think this is a really good move. And to the Google thing, I would be very surprised if Google does not reinvent Chrome to compete with this, because if it's good, then they are going to really struggle.
Yeah, I mean, everything's about distribution. We've actually got discussion that Tremath has brought up around, distribution then product. And Google, OpenAI and Google seem to be the two biggest players on the distribution side now. Like Grok is actually really small and things like that. So it seems like we've now got this final head-to-head thing here. They've both got equivalent models, it feels like, and they're both starting to get to similar distribution. I think there's enough room for two there. I mean, you got Safari and stuff at the moment as well. But what's interesting is that you've got this chat interface with search now. And like you said, it sort of is booking the flights or booking the hotel where, yes, go off and book my flights. But like we've said before on this show, that's not just a straightforward thing. Like, I've finally got an EA now. And it's not just about like booking a flight. It's, who do you like to fly with? Are you willing to stop over? If you stop over, do you want to stay overnight? If you were to go there, what kind of hotel do you want to stay in? Do you want to stay in a window or an aisle seat? Like, there's all these actual questions. And I think what this is enabling it to do is just get a bit of nuance there as a conversational assistant, while it's got then the tools to operate and venture around the web where it needs to go. So I think it's actually going to take a little bit of getting used to from the user side of things.
Yeah. And look, I was having a conversation with my colleagues in the US the other day. Most of them say they don't Google anything anymore, which, like, first of all, was like a little bit scary, knowing that ChatGPT still hallucinates a bit. And when you're looking for hardcore facts, sometimes it's not the best. But it just shows that the web browsing experience as it was subpar. Like, I always talk about getting a recipe for things. How bad is the experience of trying to find a recipe and having to go through all of the ads, and you got to then like jump to the recipe and find stuff, versus just having a chat interface or like a recipe you can talk to based on the information it knows about what you've got in your fridge. So it's very clear that the browsing experience is now outdated, but how do we get the good parts of it, the visuals and the fact that you can verify where information is coming from and who's posted it, is having that combined with the personalization of ChatGPT, and having that combined with the ability for the agent to do stuff for you. It's really cool. And I agree that the concept of having an EA, it's like booking flights is not that easy to do. But if you have you're going to be talking to ChatGPT more than you're going to be talking to your EA, most likely. So ChatGPT is going to know more about you than your EA will at some point. And so that's, I think that's a really, really good point. It's going to start to become your personal assistant, and it's going to be able to do things on the web for you.
Yeah, I think whoever dominates memory is going to win. That's my feeling here, because I feel like the stickiest part of ChatGPT is the memory, because I can drop anything in and it knows. I don't have to ask a question. It will go, okay, you can see it thinking and reasoning. It goes, okay, Scott's dropped this in. He usually wants me to apply this to his role as a CEO of W or Elysium. I will now run 2 streams. This is what it means for W. This is what it means for Elysium. I didn't have to prompt it. I'm just dropping a doc in or dropping a link in. And I think, once they get your memory, similar to like a good EA that you've worked with over time, then you're not having those additional prompts anymore, because it just knows. And it might say, stop me if I'm going too far, but I'm going to go and just do this thing. And it's similar to having an employee or a workplace colleague where we talk about them being proper agentic, where there's like these levels of agency where they come to you with every problem. Then the second level where they come to you with a problem and some possible solutions. And then then the next level is they just solve their own problems and then give you an FYI at the end. So I think everyone sort of seems to be solving for the next step in sort of agency, but I think the real unlock is who's going to win on memory. And I don't really understand what the technical side of that looks like, but I think that's the most powerful element there.
Yeah. And just to riff on that idea of agency of employees versus agents, I think that the two are getting so blended in how you design your organization that, and one example is Aaron and I have been trying to figure out how we can empower the team to move faster without us. And a framework that I wouldn't say what we've come up with, but because I'm sure it's out there, but we thought of from first principles, was this, we've called it IAC. So inform, approve, and then consult. And so basically what we're building is a matrix of, for every task that's happening in the organization that's managed by someone else, where do we sit on that? Where does that task sit in inform, approve, consult? In the sense like, okay, if you've done this thing, I just want to know about it. Like, just tell me that you've done it. Mm-hmm. The second level is get my approval before you do that. So go do all the work for it and just get me to approve the final sign off. And then the third one is consult. Like, before you go and do all the work on this thing, consult me first, because I might be able to actually help, or it might be a one-way door that I actually want to make sure we want to step through that. And so, to your point, how could we build that kind of framework into the AIs that we're using? Like, it probably should just learn that type of thing over time without having to actually formally program it. It might just pick that up through its high level of agency, that it will know that. It knows that the last 3 times that you asked it to do something, you wanted to sign off on it. That falls into the approve column. So it's just this concept of employees as humans versus agents in the org is really fascinating to me. And I think we are going to view organizations as the combination of both, and those lines are just going to get so blurred.
Yeah, it's a great idea, actually. Are you doing that just at founder level, or are you letting teams run those same principles inside of teams? So you do it at every positional level or to direct manager?
Yeah, it's us for now, but there's no reason it couldn't work like that throughout the hierarchy. We do try to keep things very flat. Like, we've really only got 3 levels in our org, like founders, middle or exec management, and then ICs. And it does. There are a few extra layers, but that's like the general layer. And we're obviously a very small company still. But I don't see why you couldn't apply that throughout an organization. It would hopefully help move, because it's all about, the biggest thing that we're noticing is, as we've grown a little bit from a startup to, say, maybe the early stages of a scale up, we have noticed a hit on our ability to ship at speed and have velocity. And so I look at the organizations that are still moving at pace, and are really big and have a lot of admiration for them, because it is easy to see how things slow down and how you can let red tape and bureaucracy into your organization. And what we're hoping is that the framework like this will allow us to get back to velocity, less approvals, just doing stuff, as knowing that it's aligned, but having some basic guardrails in place.
I think it's a great idea. Yeah, you've got to build systems and an organizational architecture for speed. And then I think it starts with really good hiring so that you can get that trust out. And then you've got to get out of the way is what I've found, and then just cop the mistakes when they happen. So I think that's a really interesting takeaway for people listening that are running businesses. Might have to do a bit of IAC internally here at W.
You should. And just to wrap on that one, I had a good conversation with an investor of ours, and was talking about the fact that, Aaron and I were getting bogged down with certain things. Aaron's taken on a lot of the HR policy stuff. And the interesting comment from our investor / advisor was, don't invest in HR too early. Just hire people that don't need HR. And I thought
Exactly.
that was a really succinct way of putting it. Like, of course, at some point you need HR policies for sure. But rather than trying to deal with the problems that have been created, what's the root cause of that? Like a lot of really high agency people don't get caught up in office politics and don't care about that stuff. They just want to get their work done. So find those people, and then you've got less of the need for HR.
Yeah, it's Elon rule. Make requirements less dumb, then delete those requirements. Just get them out. All right, mate. Claude code on the web. All the geeks are losing their marbles, which is what usually happens when a Claude release happens. What is this product shipment or product update, and what does it mean? Is it just a better way for coders to use Claude, or what's happening there? But it sounds like big news.
It's pretty big news. Cursor has already done this, so I don't think people should be losing their minds too heavily over it. But the unlock is basically when you're using a product like Claude Code to build software for you, it's running on your computer. It's using your local computer to build things. It's then sending stuff off to the server, but ultimately you're running things on your computer, and you've got to have it open in front of you. What this does is it allows you to move to more of an asynchronous approach to doing this. So you can kick off a Claude agent to start building stuff for you, and it can do it in the scenes. You don't have to then have your computer open, and you can get notifications on your phone that, hey, this agent has got to a certain point, and you can prompt the agent to do stuff from your phone. So you're not having to go into your computer or always have it running. You can keep the job moving while you're on the move. And so what this allows us to do is to move more into this mind space of, I'm just managing my agents. They're doing the work and they're coming back to me when they need to get notified, rather than me having to be there all the time. And it also allows you to kick off work for agents to do while you're on the move. So I could be in the car driving and using my cradle, of course, not holding my phone, and have an idea, and I could technically go into Claude Code and say, hey, I've thought of a way we can, fix this build pass feature. Can you scope this out for me and start working on a fix? And we'll just go and do it. And then you might get back to your computer, you review the code and say, that's good. So that's why people are losing their mind. It's a new way of working, and it makes a lot of sense.
Okay, excellent. Initially your man, Toby Luckey of Shopify, and now officially our man, as I've had a late bromance with him in 2025. He's been moving fast. He's been going hard on AI inside his organization from the bottom up, and then obviously trying to integrate it into their product. An interesting move this week to bring Lovable into Shopify as an integration. So now you can build Shopify online stores inside Lovable or with Lovable inside Shopify. What is this? I mean, talk to us about what this might mean in there, and maybe some of the tech that's happening, and how these two companies could somehow merge and work together while still having all the guardrails they have. And then potentially we might have a conversation about the wider thing that this looks like around partnerships. We're seeing a lot of partnerships now. So almost a build versus buy or an integrate versus build strategy. What are you seeing in this deal here?
Yeah, the build versus buy is definitely a fascinating conversation. I'd love to hear your take on that. But just quickly on the tech, essentially building a Shopify store, you did do that within the ecosystem of Shopify. So you go on to Shopify, you sign up for an account, you set up the back end of the store. That's kind of the same for everyone. But then your front end of the store, you pick a theme, basically. You just can see how it would look. And then you actually have to custom code things. And you do all of that within the Shopify ecosystem. You can pull down the code, do it in your own editor, and then push it back up. And for anyone who's done Shopify development, it's okay, but it's a bit confusing. It's not like a novice can just go in there and start building. You got to learn how to use it. I think what this is doing, I haven't actually used this, but basically Shopify is saying Lovable is really good at creating beautiful websites using AI, and people love it. So how can we integrate that technology with what we've got? And what I suspect it's doing, it's basically Lovable has been trained on what a Shopify website needs to look like. It knows all of the guardrails, like you mentioned, and you can go out there, use your creativity, prompt it into what the store should look like. It understands the types of formats that Shopify will need to accept. And you can go and integrate that. So you do all of the building in Lovable, and you go back to your Shopify platform and probably just hit update, and it would be in there for you. And then that's integrated into the back end of Shopify. The value of a Shopify store versus just, a Lovable website is they've got all the back end logic, right? They've got all the inventory management, the ability to set up prices for things and integrations with logistics providers. So that's not going anywhere. And I think it's really bold move by Toby and the Shopify team to decide to integrate here, like you mentioned, versus building it themselves.
I tell you what, how low is the barrier to entry becoming to be an entrepreneur or do a side hustle? You could
Totally.
look for a market in deep research in Google or ChatGPT. You could then have an agent go and find the price of that at Alibaba, and then have that agent create a beautiful website inside Lovable and have a shop running on Shopify, all within sort of 48 hours. And you might be just have an arbitrage on a supply item, an idea, and a little marketing arbitrage to take it from an Asian market into a Western market. And you spent 48 hours doing it. And you've got an actual shop.
Yeah. Yeah, it is the barrier to entry is so low that if you Nike saying just do it, all you need is the confidence and the work ethic to go out and start trialing something and the curiosity to start doing something. The barrier to entry is so low, and even with things like drop shipping, which has been around for a while, you don't even have to invent a product. People have already got products out there that are ready to ship to people, and all they need is the distribution. So you to go out there and do the marketing and build the website. And like you said, you can do the research for what kinds of products people want, and you can actually go and build it all with AI now. This is could be a weekend project to set something like this up.
Yeah, you might see a product in China, you're on your trip now, and you might go, holy shit, this is awesome. And then overnight, you could start a Shopify store and figure out where the supply is coming from and be selling it. You could then hook up, you could get some ChatGPT advice, become a marketing consultant and tell me the best ads to do, meta ads, best targeted meta or Google ads. Have a little budget, do some testing, get some sales, and then celebrate after your first day. You do a $200 sale, and then you do that on an ARR, and then you post that online, get some funding. Just say, I've got $1 million ARR business in 48 hours. It's look, we've got some more talk a bit later on in the founder files, just around, I think, the little parting message, I think, to add to that about people who are just circling around on an idea at the moment. But what I want to get into now is something we might have talked a little bit about, but Ray Dalio is probably the greatest hedge fund manager of all time, has written some great books. One of them is Principles, really good book on, having a strategy, sticking to it, organizational culture. I think he built it around something like he called which was like extreme honesty or something, like in his organization, but just a gun, has predicted a lot of the biggest trends before they happen. And this is a trend I think is going to take flight, and it is about cloning yourself, in the form of an LLM, so that those who subscribe to you or similar can get, advice from you, and basically creating a brand and a platform out of yourself and commercializing yourself. What's interesting with Ray is that he's done this for free and he's giving it access to everyone. I think there's a two-way data play here as well, for him to almost maybe fine-tuning himself or staying across certain topics or understanding what people want and trends and things like that. But there's also like Alex Hormozy, who's a bit of a marketing sales guru who's released a few books. He's done something similar and he's commercialized it, and he's got subscriptions, and imagine the low overhead on something like this. So we were probably having a chat before the show about what is the difference between this and ChatGPT. I think the difference between this is, and it's something we'll go into next with Andrej Karpathy's spoken about, is it's all the noise and slop in the training of a large language model. Like all the noise of scraping Reddit and all the dumb ideas on X and all the crap. And then when you clone yourself, you can put as much data as you can pack in. Or imagine if Toby Lutke did it with all of his screenshots from the last 15 years. Like, you can make this thing far more efficient and far less hallucinations, because it's concentrating on all your IP. So what are your thoughts about him doing it, and then maybe the trend, and then any technical differences between that and a traditional LLM?
Yeah, well, I think that's exactly the point with Andrej Karpathy's comment around the fact that the whole internet has had to be compressed into these large language models. And yeah, you do have all of that noise. So if you can get the smarts of a model, you probably pull in some of the pre-training, so it's got knowledge of the world sitting alongside just the things that you want it to focus on. And what it probably requires is enough content. So someone like Ray, who has written books and probably has essays and has probably been journaling, if he's piped all of that in, it probably provides a really good experience. If it was just, if you only had a few dot points about how you thought about the world, then it's probably not going to be a very interesting AI clone. To your point around, is it a data play from Ray? I haven't actually looked into this, but you might know. How do people access it? Do they do it via ChatGPT at the moment, or has he got his own app that he's built that people are accessing this?
Great question. It's very fresh from this week. I think it's sort of part of a subscription. So I imagine, I know you might be logging into a browser with him or something. I don't believe it's through ChatGPT. He's mentioned no partners, no modeling partners.
Yeah, because I think that's something I hadn't thought of. If it's not via one of those partners, then he probably just needs to put a tick box in there to say, I'm going to read all your messages, and then he gets an understanding of what people care about in the world. So which is fascinating, and that's something that I hadn't thought about with these AI clones. But you're right in saying that the overhead to this is so low. You're just training a model on all the things that you've already said. You've done the hard work in putting your thoughts together. This is how I think about the world. Here's all of my intelligence and my knowledge. The final step is wrapping that up with an LLM and selling it. Like, it's genius.
What would be interesting though is even some of these frontier models. What if you could opt in to the pre-training that you want in your model? So like you say, I'll take the Ivy League school MBAs, all the papers, all the research, but I don't want the Reddit. I don't want the X. I don't want the noise. And then you then sit on top of that with some of your IP, and then that's a GPT. Similar? Would there be something stopping that technically?
It's not my area of expertise. I would say that the way LLMs currently work, I don't think that would be possible to reject pre-training. So I think the model has to, it does the pre-training on all of it. Yeah, and then to say it rejects certain, forget certain parts. I don't know if that's possible. You can obviously in the prompt tell it like only reference these things, but it's still going to be biased in some ways. So that would be a good one to get Andre Carpathy on and ask him that question. Surely he would come on the ByteDance pod.
I was going to say this is in the Andre Carpathy. Let's get into him. So because I was going to say the perfect thing to do would be ask the clone of Andre Carpathy if he just democratized his intelligence, because what we need to do is San Francisco is an absolute thought bubble. There is one school of thought. I think the politics there would be like 95% in one direction, and they all think the same thing about the thing every week. And this week's thing is Andre Carpathy's interview on the Dwakesh Carpathy podcast. And what I found it really interesting. So I've listened to it twice, and I'm borderline technically illiterate when it comes to this. But it is a great interview for anyone that's got time. 90 odd minutes of someone who is intensely intelligent in AI. What's interesting is he's just developed a chat app, and he completely hand coded it. So he was saying no AI, no vibe coding. Completely did it himself, because he's saying that he still believes that vibe coding is complete slop. He also thinks agents are slop. It was a really interesting reestablishment, almost a bit of a bubble burst of the thoughts in San Fran at the moment. But one of the really interesting things he said was the way that humans have been able to compress all of our learning, and it's basically all of our learning over thousands of years into our DNA and into the systems of our brain and the way we think and the way we learn and the way we understand and make decisions. He was saying that AI and LLMs are so far from that and so inefficient, and years away from even getting close. And it was a really interesting guide to maybe the pathway to AGI, which we'll go over later. But it was a really interesting take from someone who's in the know, a great orator, and he had some great ways of explaining, of saying, like, for an LLM to get to a decision, in the pre-training, they would have ran 100 versions of getting to that decision. No matter which way it got to that final answer, if that final answer is correct, they then boost all of the decision matrix that went into it. And within that could be 30 things in the wrong direction, where you're just burning compute all the way through just to get to that answer. And it elevates all those bad decisions on the way. Whereas a human goes, should I step in front of this car? No. Whereas an AI might go, should I step in front of this car? Well, the guy on Reddit said this, the guy on X said that, Harvard Business School said this. So it's a really interesting concept around, I suppose, the technical pathway to AGI. And when you get these people who are super smart, it reminds me of a CTO versus CEO type thing. When a CEO promises a feature and then the CTO is there in the background, like Aaron probably does this with you at conferences, like, hell, what are you talking about? But yeah, so what are your thoughts on the whole thing around, potentially the thought bubble being burst there, and then what he's trying to say?
Yeah, I love his way of explaining things, and I haven't listened to this podcast, but I've listened to him talk about things before. It is awesome to see someone who's so technically amazing and is also humble about their own capabilities as well. So I think that it certainly shows that there's groupthink in San Francisco and a lot of hype over things. I don't think it's going to burst the AI bubble. Like, I think, yes, we are in an AI bubble. There's overinflated valuations, but ultimately, heaps of VC money will be lost as part of this. And so maybe you could call that a bubble bursting, but I don't think the bubble's going to burst in the sense like the crypto bubble did, because there is so much value being generated still, even though the agents that he talks about are really dumb. That's true, but they're doing a lot better than existing tech was. So we're still providing value for people, and that's why these companies are getting a lot of revenue really fast, because they've got a new way of accessing information and performing tasks for people. So I really love that he's a first principles thinker. It sort of sets us back in reality on this path to AGI, which we can talk about. And what it sort of says to me is maybe we've got one piece to AGI. LLMs is good at certain things, but what is all the other technology that we need to build if we truly want to get AGI? Maybe the LLM is just one piece of that.
I've got a thought that I'll save for later on Punt with Pez and Scotty's stocks section on we're going to bet where the date of AGI, but I'll save my thoughts for then. Speaking of gambling addicts, Chamath Palihapitiya, he has come out with a post this week about distribution. We've spoken about distribution. We spoke about it at the start of the show. OpenAI started with basically 90% of AI queries. It's now dropping to around 85%, and Google's picked up some of the distribution there. And naturally, I think those two are going to go head to head. It's interesting seeing Grok with such a good model not being able to penetrate, even though they've got the X user base. But what he's saying is that basically distribution is everything. Looks like a 2-horse race, but OpenAI is still absolutely dominating. It'll be interesting to see like browser distribution in a few months' time. But then he's saying when people like Meta get their act together, they've actually got time. So like Meta and Apple and all these huge companies with existing distribution can actually probably still take their time, because when they unlock it, most people aren't you and I. They're not out there trawling the internet at 3 a.m. to find out some new tool. They're just waiting for the thing to land in their pocket. It's like I've got some business friends that are hyper successful, and whenever I talk to them about it, they're like, Microsoft Copilot, when it gets good, then we'll run it through the business. And I'm like, God damn, to me that sounds like a tragedy in the workplace. But these guys are much smarter than me. So that's the average person. The average person is not going out and searching for a new tool. They're waiting for their existing thing they use to work. So what are your thoughts on this sort of creating the world's best tool versus just existing, monsters just winning whenever they get their act together?
Yeah, well, the classic example here is Microsoft and their bundling. Like everyone, you've probably seen the graph of how well Zoom was doing in the COVID times, and then how Teams took them over. Same thing with Slack. Slack was the darling of chat over the internet for B2B, and then the usage of Teams now, even though Teams is clearly an inferior product, way outweighs that of Slack. And so it shows the power of distribution and the power of bundling things together into an ecosystem. I was actually at the Procore conference last week in Houston, and they have got their together on some of the AI stuff. They've got AI agents in the platform now, so you can sort of say, I want an agent that's going to use this tool and this tool, and it's still very basic, but I think for a big company, I was actually quite impressed at the speed that they're moving. And what it's becoming pretty clear is they're following that similar Microsoft strategy. These conferences they do, they're so funny because it's all the partners are there and are funding the conference. So all of the integrations to Procore are there because, Procore's the biggest company in the world. It's got a real stronghold with larger construction companies in the US. And so everyone, all their partners want to be there, even if they sort of compete with them to chat with their customers and try and win business. But then at their keynotes and throughout the whole conference, they're showing these features that is basically trying to crush all their partners, and the partners are there funding the conference. So it's this really funny dynamic, and I think it's a similar thing to what we're seeing here. It's the people who have the distribution and these platforms are going to try and keep building capabilities in. And I guess the really smart thing that like Procore and these big platforms do by integrating with other tools is they get all the metrics and the analytics. So they can see, oh, wow, this partner they've got heaps of usage coming through. Let's go and build that functionality into our platform, build versus buy. And so when it comes to having AI now and being able to develop, my thoughts haven't changed on what you need to do. You can't be a point solution that's plugging on to these big platforms. You need to be creating your own platform and your own ecosystem. That is the play. And so, yeah, look, it's definitely aligned with this concept of distribution mattering in the chart that Chamath shared.
It's funny. I've had a look at Y Combinator in the last couple of months. I keep an eye on, like, just because they do the launch video like every second day. So I'm just keeping an eye on what they're considering important. What's interesting in this month's or this season's Flock, there's a bunch of little construction point solutions coming out. One of them is like, we help design fire sprinkler systems. And it's like, for decades, fire sprinkler systems have done all this stuff. Now, fire sprinkler system design, and no offense to hydraulic engineers, but it's a few sprinkler dots on a plan, right? And I think, Y Combinator are funding this? Like, this just seems to me like super low-hanging fruit that someone like yourself one day might bolt on as like a quick feature or something like that if you're really having a crack. And like, because we're with Elysium, you know, which like we had a look at the other day, and we've got like a 24-step process or 27-step process, and we think, you know, in this build versus buy, we're doing this build versus buy thing now, and how much capital do we need? And my thought is really, don't build much. Sit over the top of a shitload of tools and then create a great experience, and just let everyone else build all these tiny little point solutions and package them together. And almost the workflow is the product, similar to like Tesla, the factory is the product. And I just look at these tiny little things coming out. And then they had another one that was like assistance for engineers to do a certain type of another engineering construction. And what's interesting to me is Y Combinator are funding, to me, what seem like, you know, borderline kid in their basement type projects, not companies that are going to be worth billions of dollars. What are your sort of thoughts on that?
Yeah. Look, I have my thoughts, but I know what the rationale is. The rationale from what I see is they think that every industry is going to get shifted by AI. And what they also think is that AI allows you to move into more niche verticals. With the logic being, if AI can do more of the workload for someone and replace humans, there will be more willingness to spend. So the typical thing that a VC will do is that they'll look at your TAM, your total addressable market, right? And so if you were, again, using the construction example, using Procore, saying we're going to sell to every construction business in the world, that's obviously a really big TAM. But the logic is that, okay, even if we are only selling to fire sprinkler designers or installers, maybe if we can replace their need for half of their staff, that we can actually charge this small business $100,000 a year, when typically we would have only been able to charge them $1,000. I don't know how that stacks up. I kind of feel like that's going to be a bit of a race to the bottom. So I don't know if I fully agree there, but I am in agreement that AI allows you to do more for businesses. It allows you to capture more of the value chain, and it allows you to replace some humans. So there is some alpha there. And, you know, we're certainly banking on the ability to do more for our customers as well. And then hopefully as you do that, your customers are willing to pay you more. So I can see the concept, but it does feel like it's gone a little bit far.
Yeah, I just feel like when you guys started, I remember it was sort of like potentially just inductions or some safety paperwork, and then you build from there. I do feel like that's almost a bit of like a pre-AI strategy, though. Like, if you had started now, 3 years later, you'd probably have the broader vision early on, and not. Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like we said about being able to like vibe code sloppy things and low barrier to entry things. I mean, they're just scattering 1,000 pieces around, and if they get 1 in 100 that wins, I think their bet in OpenAI or whatever their second biggest bet in is paid for the whole company's returns. Like, they've had one company pay for 15 years of returns, I think. From their winners. So
yeah, well, to that,
I think they're sprinkling it everywhere, basically.
Scotty, around the like, you know, how much do you build at the start is a really interesting one that we think about all the time. And AI certainly allows you to have like a bit of a bigger vision from the start. But what we're seeing these companies go and niche down. So when we started, it was like, okay, yeah, we know we don't just want to be a safety app. We want to do all these other things. We've got to pick. You're forced to prioritize what you do first because you're constrained by dev resources. But if you're starting from scratch now, you can do a lot faster. And so you almost don't have to be as militant around what you prioritize and what your strategy is going to be. You sort of just build and just keep building. And I'm actually trying to get some of that back into our organization. It's like, guys, we don't need to necessarily just pick the one thing that we're doing right now. We could have 5 streams of work going on in parallel, all synced up. And, our platform could get so much more comprehensive in a small amount of time. And if we don't do that, there might be this next YC startup that comes in and looks at build parts and looks at Procore and looks at builder training and goes, I'm going to take all the good parts of all of them. I'm going to try and build them as fast as I can and get a brand new platform that does a bunch of things and build that really quickly. Like that's sort of the world we live in. Now, the point and actually, I think the second part of this chart that we've been talking about with Chamath is that you cannot actually just go and vibe code that. So you cannot get a Lovable to go and build enterprise software at the moment because there's too much engineering that goes into it and it's just not there. So it's this real balance, but yes, you can move faster, but you still need really, really good engineers at the helm instructing the AI how to do things. And so I still think it comes back down to having the best engineers and the best designers in the world and how do you make them 4 times more efficient with AI rather than trying to replace them.
Yeah, I think Andre Karpathy, that was the summary of what he said. He said, I don't want an agent to write my code. I want, an agent to answer queries for me and, assist me search for things and find bugs and all that kind of stuff. So he's like, so I think you're completely right there. And he said that the next decade is the decade of agents. A lot of people have said this year, but he's like, no, they're currently crap and it's going to take 10 years for them to like to boost human output. So before anyone's getting replaced. So yeah, really, really interesting thoughts there. Mate, let's get into the robot rundown. This week, one of the big players, to me, there's 3. There's Tesla and Figure in the West, out of the US, and there's Unitree out of China. And I'm tipping China is going to end up with hundreds of robotics companies. But Unitree, I think, have been, on the front line actually shipping product for the last few years and doing a great job. And they're actually quite small little things traditionally. They're like 130, 140 centimeters, pretty lightweight. And then a couple of days ago, they've released their new H2, which is a humanoid, 180 centimeters, so nearly 6 foot, 70 kilos. Probably a trimmed down version of you and I. At our best if we were athletic. But it's another. There was a couple of memes on the back of it of like someone prodding on Optimus with a stick, going, "Go on, ship something," and then like a picture of Brad Adcock like still talking about robots in like 30 years and just raising more capital. But it is interesting to see, a Chinese company just quietly going about releasing things for 20 grand and 12 grand, and we've spoken about that before, but it is ultra impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think some of the things that they demo these robots doing is really crazy, whether it's doing karate or falling over and jumping back up. It is a little scary to see like how capable they are. And you're right, the Unitree robots, like the one you can buy from Walmart for $20K over in the US, they're quite small. I actually saw one at this Procore conference. One of the drone companies had one. And it gets a little bit more scary when it's a full-size human that's sort of standing there looking at you, and it knows karate and it doesn't feel pain. It's and
President world. President Xi can command it on call at any point.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's a really interesting thing. I think they're a massive player. We spoke about their market cap that was really low a few months ago, and we were talking earlier in the show. Is it your brother-in-law who's an actual investor?
Oh yeah, my brother-in-law. He's made some good money on the stock markets.
Well, I think we're going to have to get him on, because I'd be interested to go back to just check some of our, things where you and I have said, this is good buying. Because I reckon months ago, we looked at Unitree's, the size of their deal that they'd done, and we thought it was good buying. They were like 20% of the value of Figure. So I think I'd be interested to check back on that and see if there's an updated valuation there. But, this robots at this size, I'm tipping the strength goes up. I'm only assuming here, but I imagine you pack in some hardware that's got some more capabilities, and you're starting to look at labor replacement and things like that. So super exciting time to see a 6-foot humanoid that can do karate, and scary. Put that caveat there. Super exciting and scary time.
Yeah.
But mate, one of the companies that I'm borderline all in on, not financially, but in regards to as a really key partner for the Elysium business, is DJI. We've spoken about them at length on this pod, how impressive they are. Spent a bit of time over in Shenzhen, going to their sort of main showroom and looking at their the history of the company, the product roadmap. And I think they're a bit of a sleeping giant. And when we talk about AGI, one of the real key things that I think matters is spatial intelligence. It's the key to, robotics. It's, the bet between Waymo and Tesla on the robotaxi front and autonomous vehicles. And they've officially launched their sort of RoboVac product. Which means they're sort of going from, I call it, almost outside the building to inside the building. And once you have this spatial intelligence solved, don't you think you can then apply it to so many products externally and internally? Like, they could almost be the autonomous Ryobi, where you just have DJI stuff everywhere, all over your house, all connected as nodes in some network and maintaining the inside and outside of your property. What do you think here?
Yeah, I think you're so right in saying that the whole idea of being spatially connected with different nodes makes a lot of sense. Like you look at the drones and the kinds of things that they can do when they're in a swarm, because they know where they are. And so if you could arm a team of robots around your home or on a construction site or in a factory, when they start working together, they almost get exponentially more valuable.
Yeah, it's a compounding effect. So I think this is the first step in a major move from them. Great use. The first thing to do is bring up a RoboVac, low risk, but I think we're going to see a DJI ecosystem inside and outside the home, which is an exciting watch. But we bring him up a few times the show, but doing a serious note on Brett Adcock, bit of a technical one, just that, with their Helix AI model, they're spending a lot of time building out speech-to-speech as the default UI for commanding between the human and the humanoid. To me, we've spoken about it a lot, probably already today, around this speech-to-speech interface. And potentially, do you think he's thinking, well, if we can win anywhere, winning at that human connection level, at that UI level, might be able to solve for a lack of scaling of his hardware, a lack of some of the other moats that Tesla and Unitree might be able to get them in manufacturing. Do you think he's thinking like what we're saying about ultimate design, and the ultimate design being what is the UI, not necessarily how the robot looks, but the actual user experience?
Yeah, well, he needs some sort of defensibility, right? When you're competing against Tesla and the big Chinese companies, he needs something that's going to differentiate. We've talked before around, does he go the premium version potentially? And maybe it's more personable. It's got the better UI around it. Maybe it's just got a better brand. Like people will be like, they want the iPhone instead of getting a Huawei. So maybe there's something in that, but it does seem like this will get democratized. You'd think that every company would be working on this. Like he's talking about, we've got a better speaker on the thing. There's a better microphone. Like, well, so what? Like, are they all meant to have that? So if this is going to be his moat, I think it's a pretty skinny moat, but he does need to figure something out.
Pardon the pun. He does need to figure something out. I like that, mate. We're running short on time. I want to get into a bit of fun, bit of gambling, Scotty stocks, and also potentially known as punt with Pez, just on some of our predictions that we could be looking at the moment, and some of our thoughts, and then we might finish with a bit of parting wisdom or founder files. So initially, overnight, ChatGPT brings out the new browser, and Google drops 10%. Is it 10% today? No, 5% in a day. This is a company that we basically celebrate every week that I think have got their paws in absolutely everything, including now after folding proteins. They've now had one of their LLMs have a breakthrough in cancer research by itself, I think, is what Sundar was saying. Is that it sort of went off on its own journey and actually made a breakthrough. I think they're going to be the biggest medical company in the world one day. I just don't see how old school medical patents are going to compete with someone like them with their compute horsepower and then their model intelligence. I don't see how how an old business competes with that. So are you a buy on the Google front at any chance you can get if they're going to have a dip like this?
Yeah, I'm a big buy on Google. I think what they have proven over the last 12 months is pretty phenomenal. Everyone said they're getting left behind on AI about 12 months ago. And you just look at the things that they've shipped, from Gemini to the image models, things they were doing with robotics, the coding tools they're releasing. Like, they're an absolute powerhouse. So yeah, I think I wouldn't bet against Google, and definitely would be buying the dip there. So I'm jumping on Scotty's stock picks.
So let's mark it for when your brother-in-law critiques us. It looks like they're around $240 today. So let's put a pin in that. We'll check around Christmas and see if the stocking is full on the Google share price. And while you're in prediction mode, I want to get into. I don't know if this is on Polymarket yet, but I want to, and you wouldn't be able to access it from China, and I can't access it from Australia. I want to get into the official AGI date. We've got Demis and Andre Karpathy both suggesting 10 years. We've got Elon, Sam, and some AI bubble enthusiasts that are saying 12 to 18 months. To me, this is the classic CEO, CTO dynamic, the people who have to sort of deliver on it versus the sort of visionary type people. Where are you sitting on this spectrum of 1 to 10 years? Where are you placing yourself? I'll have my opinion after, and then I've got some opinions coming in through the speaker of some famous celebrities.
Yeah, I will weigh on this. I have to apologize. I've got the cleaner literally doing the brows next to me right now. So hopefully I think they're going to come behind the screen here as well.
This is good. I can get it in.
Simple's going to have to do a good job on both the audio and the video here.
Can't wait till that's a humanoid. You should turn around and say it to them. Can't wait till you're replaced by a quiet robot.
I think the thing with AGI, the thing is we need to define what it is. I think everyone's got different really getting up from my grill right now. Almost got knocked over.
It's making AGI feel a long way away, by the way. It's making it feel further away.
But we've got to define what it is. I think Sam has been asked this question before, like, when do you think AGI is going to be? And his retort has been like, do you not think we're there yet? So it depends on like how you define that. And maybe in another app, we can sort of go into some definitions of what the smart people of the world like how they actually define it. But based on my understanding of what AGI is, which is very much around like, can it just legitimately replace humans in a general way? I thought we were closer. I thought we were in that 1 to 2 years, the way things were going. When I see smart people like Andre Kapasi diving into some of the challenges, and our man Jan, he's obviously he's up there with the smartest people in the world. Obviously, he doesn't think it's ever going to happen. So, look, I would go 6 to 7 years. That would be my if I had to take a bet right now.
Sitting on the fence, I like it. Look, sitting somewhere between Andreas Karpathy and Elon's probably not a bad place to sit. So I like that from you. Very safe though.
Where are you?
I'm gonna. I mean, Elon's just said that he thinks Grok 5 has got a 10% chance. I think his predictions have gotten better over the years. He used to go a bit early,
definitely.
but I think with like SpaceX, he's done pretty well, and then recently full self-driving, he's been a bit closer to the mark. I think we're going to be 18 months. I think what Dennis and Andre Karpathy is saying is that there needs to be significant breakthroughs. What I think is going to happen though is Jensen is going to make the breakthrough. I think NVIDIA, it all sits on NVIDIA. What we can do with compute, I feel like it's just an energy and compute problem. And I think that is all Jensen is concentrating on. We've talked about him, basically having an arbitrage on electrons is basically the business model now. And I just think that NVIDIA will make a breakthrough that will solve for either the compression of the intelligence required, or they'll just solve for the sheer horsepower of compute. And maybe not for the compression yet, but the sheer horsepower will just get us there. It'll be like, inefficient AGI, if that makes sense. So, I'm doing that purely as just backing NVIDIA of what's going on in there. And then the rest of the smart people in the world will figure out what to do on top of it, which I feel is like what AI has been for the last 10 years. So that's my bet. The couple of others that have just come in through my earpiece here. We've got, you said Jan. He has confirmed Never. Yeah, he's gone with Never. Yep. So he's really pushing the Scale AI team there at Meta. Mira Murati is 1/3 of the way into writing a paper about it. She's going to release that in 2029. But she's looking to raise some more billions just to make sure she can write that paper. And I believe Brett Adcock has confirmed he's found it. He's found AGI, and he's selling it at fair market value. So you've got to inquire to his new capital firm if you want to register your interest for AGI. So the ultimate salesman is sorting that out. Mate, maybe to finish on, we might skip the parting wisdom for this week and save it for next week. One last bet, or one last opinion, or one last forecast. We've got the world's 10 most valuable private companies. OpenAI sits at number 1. So these are companies that aren't on the public markets. OpenAI, 500 billion, SpaceX, 400 billion, ByteDance, 330 out of China, Anthropic, 180, XAI, 113, Databricks, 100 billion, Stripe, 92, Revolut, I don't know who they are, at 75, and Shine with an E at 66. I'm not 100% sure who they are either. Interesting that Elon founded three of the top 5. What for you, and you can name companies that aren't currently in that 10, but what are your top 3 private companies potentially now and into the future? Who are you thinking? Is there anyone that's getting slept on here? What are your thoughts? Could Figure AI be undervalued at 40 bill pre-product? Like what are you thinking? Where do you sit on your top 3?
Yeah, so I'm going to answer with 2, and then I'm going to answer with a category for my third. So my 2 are pretty clear on this. It's SpaceX and it's Stripe. So and look, you would throw OpenAI in there as well, but I don't want to throw that in there. So I'm going to put SpaceX as number 1. I think that they have such a monopoly over space flight and satellites, and they have proven that they can do things outside of that, like Starlink. Like they are going to go direct to cell. I just think they're going to do so many things as a company, and they've got so much moat. I think Stripe is an incredible company that powers so much of commerce, and they're also proving that they can keep up with the era. They've got the Stripe agentic payments protocol. They're working on stable coins or have released them. And they're just an absolute juggernaut that I don't see anyone catching up to. And my third category player, and there's a few startups in this space. I think one of them will end up being the third biggest private company in the world. But it's those that are enabling the infrastructure layer of AI. Whether it's to do better inference, whether it's to do better supply chain management. So I'm going to put an AI infrastructure company in there, and there's a couple that I could sort of talk to that have had big vowels, but I can't place who it's going to be. So a bit of a cop-out answer on my number 3.
Yeah, let's park OpenAI as well, as it's a bit obvious, but they'd definitely be up there for me. I think they've reached critical mass. And you could basically be hard to get it wrong from here. I'm also SpaceX and Stripe, which probably isn't the best podcasting material, but I think I love Monopolies, and I think they're potentially too. I don't like Visa and MasterCard, but I don't even know who runs them. They just seem like animals gouging. Stripe has this almost both sides of the agreement seem to like Stripe. Like new businesses like it. I like just clicking and it's paid. So I feel like, they can start bolting on, if they wanted to, what's stopping them from bolting on points and things like that? Points on both sides of a transaction and, all those sort of benefits and airline benefits and stuff. So I think where they can go is crazy, and everyone's going to want to partner with them. My last one, another monopoly, and I think it's going to be the rise of Neuralink and this, potential slow death of Apple, is this deviceless future. I just think they're so far ahead, and in a decade, I don't think we're going to be talking about devices. And at the moment, they're in the brain, potentially, you don't want to put a chip in your brain. Potentially, they'd be slowly working towards something outside the skin. And I just think the brain-computer interface that they've been working on for 5+ years, and that they're gonna win that race. So I suppose the bet there is all transactions on Earth, all of space, and all computer interfaces moving forward. They're currently 3 private companies, and I reckon that's 3 monopolies for me.
Yeah, they're the monopolies. I like it. Very Peter Thiel of you go 0 to 1 and don't compete.
I also love his current villain arc that he's on. I fucking love it. He's the man. He's basically single-handedly got Trump in the first time. Now he's doing podcasts about being the Antichrist and that, should all people live? And he's like, he's the best. He's the best. He's so autistic. It's awesome. But anyway, yeah. All right, mate. Well, been a great show. A lot of fun. And please get yourself a coffee and look after yourself over there.
I'm gonna be walking over to Starbucks now because I can report back my McDonald's coffee that I ordered did not arrive.
I'll tell you who did arrive. That non-humanoid cleaner.
No. Yeah.
Very good. Well, it's the home of DJI. Just put the bot in. Okay. All right, mate. Well, enjoy yourself.
Yep. Get the bots in.
See ya.
Thanks, Scotty. See ya.